Hey, what is happening, everybody? Welcome back. And if it's your first time here, just plain welcome. I'm going to start something a little different today. I just spent a weekend with a lot of great Second Amendment advocates, and I'm really fired up about gun rights. And that's kind of my roots. So I'm going to start with having a little 2A Tuesday. I didn't originate it, but we're going to start doing that here. Every Tuesday, Second Amendment news. And the big news this week is Kash Patel, confirmed as FBI director, now being named acting head of the ATF. What does it mean? First, let's understand that officially all it means is that Kash Patel is running the ATF for at least the time being. Officially, there's been no word given. I know I'm saying officially a lot, but I just want to clarify that we don't really know a lot beyond Kash being the new honcho over at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The odds of him actually turning it into a convenience store, not that great, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. I don't know that that's something Kash would be opposed to, but there's a lot going on, and we need to temper some of our expectations. My friend Jared Yanis over at Guns and Gadgets, he's got a video today talking about there possibly being another name already in the mix to be a permanent director of the ATF. This is an interesting thing. Jared notes that the acting part of Kash Patel's job description right now may be very short-lived. Entirely possible. It's absolutely possible that's going to happen. I'm going to have a link to Jared's video down below. I'm of the opinion personally that while that may happen, there's probably some reason they felt the need to act immediately. There's some speculation as to what that could be, but what we do know is that you don't actually need an ATF director to start cleaning house in the ATF. Pam Bondi's been confirmed as Attorney General, and she can, remove people at the ATF just fine. So because that happened, Kash is going to be calling the shots for a little while. What does that boil down to? Well, first, what we've seen Kash do over at the FBI is immediately start cleaning house, getting rid of problem agents who use their position for political retribution, letting their politics dictate their agenda, things like that. Now that he's running the shop at the ATF, I can expect a lot of that to happen. One of the first people that's probably going to go is Marvin Richardson. He's the acting director, or he's been the acting director of the ATF. He's officially the deputy director. Richardson has been knee-deep in pretty much every anti-gun move made by the ATF over the last 4 years. He immediately started working with the Biden administration during the transition, laying out all these things he wanted to address, including perhaps most famously pistol braces. That's been an ongoing fight. The braces can be shouldered, but they weren't designed for that. The ATF went back and forth on whether you could do that or not. The whole thing was confusing as hell. And Richardson wanted those banned. Trump wouldn't do it for him. Biden did. Because of that, though, I think his days at the ATF are probably numbered. One of the things Richardson did was defy Trump's orders regarding laying off or indefinitely suspending DEI personnel throughout the federal government. Lisa T. Boykin was the chief diversity officer for the ATF. Richardson simply slotted her over to senior executive. I want to make sure I got that title right. It's a title that has absolutely no relation, no description. The title doesn't really fit her skill set. Her background appears to be in human resources, which is fine. That's a field, whatever. She parlayed that into DEI related work, diversity work, which put her in the ATF. That slot is gone. It's a non-issue, and yet Richardson just shifted her over to something nebulous, something that doesn't really seem to have a description. If you look at the chain of command at the ATF, the senior level leaders, everybody's job has something, some title that gives you an idea of what they do. Boykin doesn't have that. And she was, like I said, she was slotted over. This is in defiance of what President Donald Trump actually said regarding DEI personnel. Now, if she were an agent who had worked her way up, ended up stepping into a diversity role, it might be a little different. That's not her background. I looked into it when this first happened. No dice. And let's be real, there are probably God knows how many other people at the ATF, especially in senior and middle roles, that are going to be a problem. They need to be gone too. Now, as for additional things Kash Patel could get into, there are a lot of problematic pieces. There's a lot of things that were enacted via directives to the ATF during the Biden administration. Again, the pistol brace rule is a prime example, right? Shouldn't have happened. It was an overreach. I get kind of why it's a little different than with bump stocks, but it's still an overreach. Ultimately, that's going to go through the courts. I think they're going to lose that case at some point, but they shouldn't have to. It's entirely possible that he could put an end to that via order. There's steps that have to be followed, but as long as those are followed, whatever. Pistol braces could be back within the next few months. All right, so another thing Kash could do is actually revisit the definition of engaged in the business. What that means is the people who are required to have a federal firearms license in order to sell firearms, according to federal law, are people engaged in the business of selling guns. For years, that was somebody trying to earn a living or a part of their living by selling firearms. If you bought guns to sell them in order to make money, to supplement your main income, or to potentially become a full-time dealer, you were engaged in the business of, and you needed a federal firearms license. If you were just selling guns just because you didn't want them anymore, or even you're trying to raise a little bit of money in a short-term basis, you didn't have to. Well, the Biden administration, during that time period, that changed a little bit. Now the definition is if you derive a profit, and that's kind of vague because how do you define who made a profit? If I buy a gun for $100 because the guy selling it is desperate for $100, and then a month later I sell it for $500 because that's what it goes for on the used market, arguably, no arguable about it, I made a profit. But am I engaged in the business of? No, I'm just not as desperate as the other guy. If I buy one today at a fair market price and I sell it at a fair market price later, did I make a profit? Well, maybe not. If that fair market price keeps pace with inflation, maybe I didn't. But if for some reason those guns are now very sought after and the demand is much higher than the supply, fair market value is a lot more. That could be named a profit. And does profit take into account the rate of inflation? It's all pretty confusing in a lot of ways that the ATF can use this to screw somebody over. Patel's got a chance to reverse that. And let's be real, he needs to, because the way it's written, people wanting to sell guns are probably going to be a little more nervous about making those sales because they don't know. They don't know if they're going to get jammed up, which means they're going to act like they're in a universal background state. And that's really where the problem is. It basically created a de facto universal background check system when Congress authorized no such thing. And lastly, Kash could probably revisit the ghost gun regulations, and of course I say ghost guns in quotation marks because it's a bullshit term. But the Biden administration started making a lot of regulations, dictating what could be sold, what couldn't be sold, putting some companies out of business, making a complete nightmare, all for something that did absolutely nothing to stop the criminals from actually making their own guns. Great job, guys. This could be revisited. This could be overturned now. We can move on and start focusing on the people, not the tools. And really, these are just a few of the starters. There's probably a whole lot of things I'm not thinking about here and now that could actually be very, very useful. That's really just where it starts in my mind, because Patel, with the help of Attorney General Pam Bondi, could start taking some real significant steps in hurting gun control efforts through the lawsuits that are already in the system. In a video a while back talking about what he would do as an ATF director, Brandon Herrera talked about basically taking the position in court as the ATF that, yeah, these laws, these regulations are unconstitutional and they should be overturned by the courts. This would, of course, prompt the courts, even in pretty gun-hostile districts, various circuit courts that don't like the Second Amendment, kind of hard to rule otherwise. They'll probably still do it, but it's just a matter of time before you hit a court that's going to look at the arguments and go, really? Both sides say this is wrong and you went that way? Now, like I said, that was Brandon, but Brandon says he did it in consultation with like Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, and I think National Association for Gun Rights. And I think it's a great idea. There's no reason Kash couldn't implement that. Kash Patel could very much step in and start doing that right away. Pam Bondi could do that right away if that's something the Trump administration wants to pursue. I don't think Bondi's going to do it on her own. I don't think she's going to take that initiative on her own. But if Trump says to do it, absolutely. I do think Patel might well do it on his own. Something else they can do, and I please, dear God, do this, is put an end to the zero tolerance policy that the ATF has been using for the last few years. This is absolutely disgusting because it treats law-abiding licensed gun dealers who make honest, good faith paperwork errors as if they're selling machine guns out the back door to Cub Scouts. Right? They're treating them like criminals when it's just a mistake. You fill out paperwork all day, every day, you're going to screw something up from time to time. It used to be the ATF, for all their faults, would look at this and go, fix this and we're good to go. Biden administration introduced a zero tolerance policy. They've since kind of reworded it a little bit, but it's still ultimately not appreciably different. Kash Patel could put an end to that right away. But that's really a lot of what Kash could do. Why make this move? Well, there's a lot of people who think this might be part of an effort to eventually abolish the ATF. Now, if the ATF goes away tomorrow, just vanishes, the laws they're tasked with enforcing don't disappear, right? They're not going to be just sitting there, not unenforced by anybody. Those duties are going to fall to somebody else, most likely the FBI. That means Kash Patel would be in charge of enforcing them anyways. If the plan is to roll the ATF intentionally into the FBI, it makes sense to have him helm both organizations to facilitate that merger. Then again, maybe he's just going to serve a caretaker role for the next couple of years until they figure they've got a better shot at getting whoever their eventual full-time pick would be. Sometimes you're waiting for the next Senate to make confirmation easier. It's possible that abolishing the ATF just never happens. And it's possible literally everything I said is already on the agenda. One thing we do know for certain is that, at least for the time being, the anti-gun personnel that make up so much of the ATF, from the very top to the very street level agent, they're going to be running scared because Kash Patel is not playing their game. What's coming isn't going to be fun for them at all. But with all that said, I want to know what you think. Do you want to see Kash Patel fix the mess that is the ATF? Or do you think he should just leave well enough alone that it's not broken, so don't fix it? The truth is, I want to hear from you. While you're down there, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that stuff. Engagement is what YouTube runs on. All engagement is good engagement, so it doesn't matter to me if you leave hate comments. It doesn't matter if you dislike, in which case you need to stay mad, you salty bitches. I don't care. But I really do want to hear from what you have to say. If you disagree, tell me why. Do more than just call me an idiot. Tell me why, and let's have a conversation. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up, and I will see you all in the next video.